kids 11:30. I have a couple of minutes time to do a short video on how to do Feldenkrais lessons. I will refer to this book, Somatics, from Thomas Hanna. He actually invented this word, which is pretty cool, isn't it? He was a student of Moshe Feldenkrais. He organized the first San Francisco training. So there's a couple of lessons inside this book. If you look inside the book, there's these little wooden figures. Here, they're doing stuff. And even though it's a great book, and I would totally recommend you to buy it if you don't have it yet and read it, because it's a good entrance point for Feldenkrais to get into the topic of somatic exercises. It's not clear how to exactly do the exercises, the quality of the exercises, and that's why I wrote my book, which is called my Feldenkrais book, which is sold out apparently right now. That's why I'm doing a second edition with a standard trim size. This is a little bit oversized, and I do a standard trim size. I had to redo all the pictures and I rework all the text. That takes a couple of weeks more until I can release it, publish it with Amazon CreateSpace. And inside my book I go into detail how to do Feldenkrais lessons. Just for example, I have one chapter which shows the differences to other methods. Very short, no drills to correct is incorrect, which is a beautiful concept. I have these photo stories where I explain, where I give you a couple of lessons and explain how to do it, and then I have these headlines which give you the dough of what to look out for. I have lessons in between, beautifully layout, play with movements, initiation. There's many these concepts, and it's like a headline you can remember, which I hope sticks, is a catchy phrase, and then I have explanations what to look out for, and then I have one lesson, resolving the red light reflex, which is the same lesson like in the book Somatics from Thomas Hanna, but I explain it in detail. So I have a lot of pictures, like here when Guillaume he comes up, and I explain how to do it. So I'm looking really forward to publishing this book on Amazon CreateSpace. I think it will be great. And now I will give you I will do the lesson, a part of the lesson myself, and just talk you through the beginning of the lesson so you can get a feeling of how I do it, or how I think it's supposed to be done. And there are several ways to do it, but let me give you a couple of examples. So this is the second lesson in the book Somatics from Thomas Hanna, and I teach it in all my introductory workshops. It should take like 20 minutes. I take like 20 minutes, 15 to 25 minutes to do this lesson, to walk people, especially if it's like 10 people. It takes some time to walk all of them through the lesson, because everyone's different, and the way you do it will be unique to you, and the way I do it is unique to me, so there will be differences. But that's the time frame you think of. But I will do it fast now. We'll do it faster, so I have people lie down, just feel the floor, and then the lesson starts with a pelvic tilt. So that's something people need to find. And then we start by lifting the head, but first, so I break it down to little steps. First I have them put the hand behind the head. Hand behind the head. And there, some people will have the legs long. And you can see when the legs are long, it does something to the pelvis. It will pull the pelvis forwards, right? But in this lesson we go into a flexion. The whole body will go into a flexion. So when we talk about flexion, we need to stand the feet, so the pelvis can roll backwards, right? If the legs are long, the pelvis can roll backwards a bit, but then it's restricted by some things, muscles and tendons and other stuff. Is there? So we start by putting the hand behind the head after the legs are standing. So it takes time. You have to look at all these details.
and then just feel how the head is inside the hand, and it will roll. So you have the effort to have the head. It will roll. The head will roll because this is like a wedge. And most people won't feel that right from the start, and they will have too much effort here. So I will just start by having them flap the elbow a little bit, go up and down, and that's the speed. You just go down, and then you try to breathe and feel, and then just lift the elbow. And then when you do it slowly, you will start to feel there's something in the shoulder joint. It's a movement in the shoulder joint. But it's also something in the hand and in the wrist, of course. If you keep your wrist stiff and you do this, your head will move. So there's all those little details you can look out for until you start to lift the head according to the lesson. And of course, it's easier when the elbow is pointing towards the ceiling. So if people don't get that, I'll have them the elbow point to the outside, and if they don't feel the difference, I have them use both hands and do this and do this, and then compare which is easier. And of course it will be easier if the head is towards the ceiling. No, the elbow is towards the ceiling and the lower arm is close to your cheek. So there's little details. You have to walk people through the little details. Detail. Is it detail or detail? Detail. English is not so easy. Okay, and then this takes time and to feel and to think, and of course with your eyes. If you use your eyes to look to your feet, it will be easier than looking up to the ceiling when you raise your head. And if you're an experienced Feldenkrais practitioner, it isn't that much of a difference. But if you have first-timers, it will be a huge difference because the eyes direct the movement of the whole body. So if you look down, it will be much easier to lift the head than when you look up, because when you look up, they go into extension pattern. And if you go into an extension is the opposite of flexion. Either you go in yin-yang, either you go into extension or flexion. You can't do both. And if you do both, you become very restricted and very stiff, and it will be very difficult. So you have to let go. And there's other things you can think of. You can think of your chin coming closer to your chest bone here. This is chest sternum, or is it pilum? I don't know. Either of one of those. I guess it's the sternum. So the chin comes closer, so the neck becomes long. Again, this is a flexion, forward flexion. The back of your neck has to become long, and the front side becomes short. So this is the nature of flexion. There's more things you can. The sternum itself, it goes downwards and behind. So this moves down and behind, and you have all those things together: the eyes and the neck and the chin and the sternum. And then you can think of the lower back coming closer to the floor, the lower ribs coming closer to the floor. Everything goes together. So that's the upper body, and then you have to take a rest, obviously, and that takes time. Now I start to feel a little bit asymmetric. Okay, and then you can do the other end. You can do the flexion from this side. So you take with your left hand, you take your knee and you move your knee, and it's a movement in the hip joint. So you need to find your hip joint, the hip socket, and the ball, and there's a movement there. And which direction is it? Is it where can you move your leg before the what is it? The socket hits, not the socket, before the bone hit the acetabulum. It's the little thing on top of what is it? Femur, and the femur has a head of the femur. Sorry, English is my second language, or my third, not even. I just try to fish for words sometime. Anyways, at some point this movement is exhausted, can't go any further, and then it takes the pelvis. Then, now it's just the upper leg rotating in the hip joint, but at some point it just hits a dead end, and then it's the pelvis that tilts backwards. So here's the pelvis that tilts backwards. from the top it's the head that comes up, and then you can bring your elbow towards the knee. They go towards each other. One, the knee goes up and the elbow goes down, and if you haven't, as it takes breaks, and you haven't done this exercise for quite a while, you feel restricted, you feel stiff, and you don't force it. So I have all these ingredients, everything goes together, and the ribs go together. And then people ask me, should you breathe in or breathe out? And this is, I don't know, people are very confused about this. Is it because of yoga or some new age? What do they do? Tai Chi? Breathe in, breathe out? Well, to resolve this question, it's easy to think of a balloon. A balloon. And of course, a balloon with little air inside is easier to bend and twist than a balloon which is full. The same goes for the lungs. If there's no air inside the lungs, it's easier to twist and bend, right? And flex. If you have air in the lungs, it's harder. It's like a full balloon. It's not easy to move. So you could breathe out, and you don't try to force it. And then there's breaks in between, and there's other combinations. I could either use the left or the right knee, and I can try it here. And then, here we have a side flexion. You see, we have a flexion to the side. Whereas if you go across the body, you have more of a twist. Here is more of a flexion, but you can also go in a straight line. And here, up. And at some point you're able to touch, and you didn't even intend it, and you will become flexible. So then you take breaks, and then you have the other combination. You can go in this, and you can move your elbow, the tip of your elbow, you can move to different spots on your knee, of course, under the knee, above the knee, or under, and inside and outside, and see how that feels like, and what you can do with your head. And you can do all sorts of things, of course, because it's you, and nobody's judging you. You can do all sorts of things. You don't even need to lift your head. So there's a lesson without lifting the head, of course. I think there's not a lesson Moshe Feldenkrais didn't think of. He was a genius. He invented. He went through all those movements. So there's lessons like this, but you can also take the head with you. And there you can see something you can see often. This leg is straight and this is flexed. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Either we go into flexion or we go into extension. But why would we do both? Especially if it's a flexion lesson. So this leg must be standing, of course. And now it's easy. See? It became easy. So that's why Thomas Hanna recommends to do this cat stretch, to do it. He says daily, but if you do it once a week or once every 2 weeks, which is a fortnight, you should be good. You can easily recover this movement. So you see how much time has passed since we started, 10 minutes. If it's just you and me, or if it's just you, you can go faster, and then you can go to the first lesson, for example, where you do the opposite. And then he has side flexion also, and the twist, of course, and that's it. Flexion, extension, side bending, twist. So I hope I gave you some insight into how to do it and what to look out for. Please post your questions below. I'm happy for questions, your comments. If you like this video, like it. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, and see you in the next video.